Kia ora team, welcome along to tonight's coaching call. Do bricks work? Absolutely 100% they do, and that's the reason why I program them in every triathlete's training plans, and I've been doing them for a gazillion years. I first started doing brick sessions back in 1991, I think is when I first did my first ever brick session, and I've been doing them. I won't say every week since, because that would be an outright lie. I've been doing them consistently, based around my other training. Kia ora, Chloe. Welcome. Glad you could join us. So,
Yeah.
brick sessions are an important part of a triathlete's training program for a number of reasons. But firstly, where did they come from and why are they called brick sessions? Oh, actually, before we even get to that, here's the topics we'll cover in tonight's coaching call. Why are they called brick sessions? What is the purpose of a brick session? What myths are there around bricks? When do bricks deliver the biggest benefits? Some common mistakes people make, and how often you should do bricks. And then I've sort of put through 5 different types of brick sessions, and then the big key take home message at the end. But I'll cut to the chase. If you're a triathlete, you need to be doing brick sessions. So, why are they called brick sessions? No one really remembers. Now, triathlon's a reasonably recent sport. The term brick session sort of developed in the late 80s. Now, around that time, there were a number of key triathletes racing, primarily what's known as the Big Four, the Scott Molinas, the Mark Allens, the Dave Scotts, and the Mike Pigs of the world. But they had like their own little wee training groups, and sometimes they trained together, and sometimes they trained with other people. One of the concepts is that on a long bike ride at some point where they were planning to go for a run afterwards, someone started singing the Pink Floyd song, Another Brick in the Wall, and the sort of name stuck. That's theory number one. Theory number two is that it's like the building blocks to a successful triathlon house, building those foundations one block at a time or one brick at a time. And so you're building that base foundation, and it's important that they're a big part of that. That's another theory as to the reason behind it. The person that really introduced me to brick training through his articles in the New Zealand Triathlete magazine was a Dr. Matthew Brick. Now, he went on to win the 92 and 93 World Duathlon Champs back when the standard duathlon distance was a 10K run, a 60K bike, and then a 10K run, as opposed to the 10K run, 40K bike, 5K run that is standardized these days. So he absolutely dominated duathlon in the early to mid 90s, after the likes of Kenny Souza had been absolutely dominating the world of duathlon. And those that are a bit of history buffs and research Kenny Souza might work out the connection between me and Kenny, and it wasn't just racing at the 98 World Champs. So those are 3 theories. No one really knows the exact answer. Could be a combination of all 3. I like the New Zealand connection with Matt Brick, but it's highly possible that it's one of the other 2 reasons. That's where it's come from, and triathletes have been doing brick sessions since the late 80s. So who knows? The purpose of the brick can have a number of different things. You can practice the transition. Multiple bricks in a row, bike run, bike run, bike run, bike run, bike run, allows you the chance to refine and hone those skills. Getting the shoes on quickly, getting the helmet off quickly, etc., is one way of incorporating them into your training and developing that skill set where you're practicing that routine, the technique, the sequence of the respective transitions. There's the neuromuscular adaptation. And this is probably one of the biggest reasons to do a brick session. When you're out cycling, your cycling muscles, primarily the glutes and the quadriceps, are saying to the brain, send me oxygen. And the brain gets that oxygen delivered by the blood system, and that you're burning all that oxygen. And so the signal keeps getting sent to the brain, send more oxygen, send more oxygen. So the brain shuts down blood supply to areas that don't need oxygen as much or reduces the flow to muscle groups that don't need it, such as the arms, especially if you're just resting down on the aero bars for the duration. That signal keeps getting pumped around the close off the blood supply or minimize the blood supply to non-essential areas, send the bulk of the blood supply to the cycling muscles. You get off the bike and start running, and it takes some time for that message to start coming through clearly that the running muscles, the hamstrings, the calves, etc., want oxygen. And so there's a little bit of time where the brain takes to change that messaging and is now trying to say, just reduce what's going to the cycling muscles. Let's send the oxygen primarily to the running muscles. So that neuromuscular adaptation needs some training. And by including brick training, that's going to help with that. Now, the shuffle, when you get off the bike, your legs are a little bit fatigued. Your running technique is not going to be the same. You're not going to be as efficient running when your legs are fatigued. So practicing technique or your running technique when you get off the bike will help you become more efficient. So that's another way of, or another reason why we do the brick. Race specific pacing is another good opportunity. Get that intensity dialed in straight into transition, or the heart rate still elevated, get changed through and out into the running. Nutrition practice, it's important to include that. The more you practice your race-like nutrition, the more confident and adept to it you'll be on race day. Mental preparation, how the leg's going to feel after the transition and you're out there running. What's the sequence? What are the steps you're following through the transition? If we're doing T1 from swim to bike, helmet on first, clipped up, cycling shoes, wetsuit off. That's a good start to practice that. Helmet on, clipped up, cycling shoes on, sunglasses on, nutrition on board that you need, and go. If we're talking about T2, coming off the bike onto the run, bike off or racked up. If you're just doing it in the garage, you might not have a rack, but simulate that environment. Once the bike is racked, helmet can come off, running shoes can go on, sun cap, and out the door. These are all things that the more you practice it, the more confident and competent you'll be mentally around the sequences. And it'll also help you come up with different strategies that work for your particular helmet. You might have one of those magnetic clasps that clip in, or you might have an old school, they're still on 90% of helmets out there, a buckle and clip. So there's little things you can adapt to along the way and get used to your equipment that might be different from someone else's. So even though it might just be one workout with two or minimum of two parts, you could have three: swim, bike, and run as part of the brick session. But most bricks are bike, then run. Some bricks are swim and then bike. But that one workout, two components to it usually, and several objectives that you can achieve as part of your training. Some of the myths out there: you have to do a long run after every long ride. That's probably the worst one that I often hear, particularly around Ironman triathletes. No, you don't. Doing a short run off every long bike ride is a great tool to help develop particularly the signaling from the brain to the muscles, to get that transition of that signaling from the cycling muscles to the running muscles. And you'll find that for most of my triathletes, every week after their long ride or every long ride they do, I'm scheduling a short run, 10 minutes, get that sequence happening, and that way it develops that. You'll often find that there's a second separate dedicated brick session that will be more of a moderate bike ride, and in terms of moderate duration, may have some intervals in the bike ride, and then a moderate duration run afterwards that may also have some intervals, particularly as we're getting closer and closer to the main event. Those intervals are going to be at race-like intensity. So that's the biggest myth, that every long ride you have to do a long run afterwards. No, doing your long run on fatigued legs is a recipe for disaster. Best case scenario, extra level of tiredness and fatigue. Worst case scenario is injury. So depending on the goals of the session and the overall training plan, we'll see different strategies involved. When is the best time to get the biggest benefit by doing a brick session? Base training is a good time to do just slightly longer, steadier riding, a relaxed transition into a longer, steady paced run. Build phase, peak phase, we're starting to get into race-like conditions. This is where we might be including intervals. It might just be an interval bike ride with a 40-minute steady state run after it. Or it might be an hour and a half ride into 2 by 20 minutes tempo intervals with a short break in between before a cool down. So you're used to running at that faster pace with the tired legs without absolutely smashing your legs with a threshold run and then going and trying to do some threshold intervals afterwards. During the taper phase, once again, we want slightly lower intensity or shorter duration with a small amount of intensity in there. For sprint distance triathlons, we can do very short, very intense bike and run and repeat it. It might be a triple brick, bike run, bike run, bike run. Doing it 3 times, so we're practicing that routine multiple times at relatively high intensity. An Olympic distance brick might have some threshold intervals in there, maybe 2 by 15 on the bike, 3 by 5 minutes on the run, something like that, particularly as you get closer to the main event that you're training for. Half Ironman bricks, you're looking at a lower intensity but a lot longer duration. It might be that the bike ride is 2.5 hours with some level 3 intervals leading into a longer run, an hour, hour and a half as part of that process to get used to that longer run off the bike. And Ironman, we can do a lot longer session in preparation for it, but keeping that intensity a lot lower. Should they be the same? Absolutely not. The brick sessions are going to be different depending on the phase of training and the major events that are being trained for and prepared for. Some common brick mistakes: running too far. Getting off the bike and just having a mega long run. Not required, not necessary. Like I said, the more fatigued the legs are, the more likely you're going to get injured as a result from it. So too much duration of the running can cause that problems. And it also takes extra long to recover from. Running too fast, particularly for your goal. If you're training for a sprint triathlon, I would hesitate to say there's no such thing as running too fast, particularly off the bike, getting used to that, particularly the super sprint style of event. But if you're training for a longer distance event or more recreational goals, getting off the bike, absolutely running hell for leather, it needs to be appropriate for the event you're training for and appropriate intensity. Turning every brick session into a race, that's effectively going to defeat the purpose. As I said before, we want to focus on get that intensity right, the intensity that's going to target your goals for that part of the season and what you're training for. Going out and just doing your bricks with no nutrition at all or not considering nutrition and just winging it. The brick session is a fantastic time to practice your race day nutrition. Have it laid out on your bike as you would carry it on race day. If you've got a bento box on your top tube, if you're using the pockets in your cycling jersey, how are you going to carry your nutrition on the run? Get used to that and practice that, particularly in the weeks in the final couple of months leading up to the event. Another mistake is never practicing that race pace. It goes hand in hand with race nutrition. Good opportunities to get both involved, particularly as you get closer to the event. And the other one is too much fatigue afterwards. So doing too much. It might not be as a pure result of the brick session, but not having enough rest leading into it and then trying to do too much or too high intensity during the event or during the brick session, leading to too much fatigue overall. Make sure your recovery and rest is appropriate both leading into key sessions and after those key sessions. How often should you do brick sessions? Initially, every couple of weeks to get used to the process. I'd still encourage you to do that short run off your long bike ride. As you become more experienced, weekly during your race preparation is effectively the minimum. And then at the high end, elite athletes are going to be highly specific and planned and structured around their training. But it's not uncommon to find elite athletes, yes, that's you, Tanya, elite athletes that are including brick type training every day as part of an overall swim, bike, run daily training plan at that higher level. So let's have a look at these 5 key types that are important to have across your training. A transition brick, like I sort of touched on, after every long ride, that 10 to 15 minute run off the bike is just that, getting that signaling from the brain down to the legs and repeating that week in, week out after the long ride, just so you can get that sequence down pat and that speed of changing that signaling from sending the blood to the site, from speed of the signaling from the brain, getting that blood distributed to the cycling muscles and getting that transitioned over to the running muscles. Race pace bricks are important leading into the event that I sort of touched on the last slide. Practice them regularly to get used to them. Combine them with the nutrition so you're fueling exactly as race day. Now, touched on for the early part of your training during your base building, building up that consistency, building in that fatigue resistance, getting that longer bike ride, and then that moderate controlled run afterwards. And then your confidence built about through that race simulation, particularly for the shorter sprint and super sprint style events, doing triple bricks, getting that sequence repeated over and over and over again repetitively within the same workout, through to the 70.3 and Ironman bricks, where it's a longer, steadier ride at that lower intensity, level 3, level 2, and then leading into a not a long run, but a longer run compared to other brick sessions. Key take home message: your bricks aren't about teaching your legs to run. The standalone run sessions do that. It's more about getting that signaling from the brain down to the muscles and getting that transition of the blood flow from the cycling muscles to the running muscles. It's teaching your body and brain to perform what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And the best brick is the one that has a clearly defined purpose based on what your goals are, what phase of training you're at, and what type of event you're training for. Questions? We'll start with you, Jason, because you were first on the call. Nothing from you. Harrison, you were next cab off the rank.
I don't think I've got any other questions. I think all the questions I had were all answered on your presentation.
Perfect. Good to hear. We'll move on to you, Gareth.
I equally have no questions tonight.
Sweet. Moving on to you then, Tanya.
No, I have no questions either.
And Chloe, because you're the world's most experienced triathlete.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Such an expert that I don't have any questions either.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, in that case, we will move back around to the top of the list and go through and answer any generic questions or unrelated questions to the presentation. Jason.
Just to completely hijack this, my next few events are trail runs. Should I be doing a hell of a lot more running off-road to learn how to do that, or is it fairly transferable because I'm blessed with the agility of a cat?
It's always good to get off and re-energize yourself with some trail running. It does not have to be every run, especially if you've got a little bit of a commute to get to a point where there is no asphalt. But if you can, once a week would be a great time or great amount. If you can get on that every day, perfect. But if you do need to travel to get to some trail or a trailhead where you can start running, then once a week, try and plan it, particularly for your long run, or fortnightly if you're doing your long run, and then try and find a time for another session on one of the other runs. But yeah, with some more trail runs coming up in your plan, put a bit more focus on getting off-road with some of those runs.
How technical are they, Jace? Like, are they, like hopping over boulders and tree roots and single track and gnarly, or is it running on like one of the cycle trails or something like that?
I think they're about a 15 out of 10.
Right.
Included in the recommended gear list is a cape and a parachute. Nah,
And a PLB.
and a PLB. No, I think they're fairly tame by trail standards.
Mm,
It's probably more sort of light gravel to a little bit of boulder sort of stuff, but
right.
I haven't done a great deal of course recon, if I'm going to be honest. But I guess it's just with my local trails, basically short of driving for half an hour to get to something, all of my trail involves hills, which may compromise some of my running. Yeah. So whether or not that's a good idea to build into my training, I don't know.
Absolutely is a good idea. Getting out to Bottle Lake will be a good one. It's a lot more chunkier. Not Bottle Lake, McLean's Island. The rocks out there are a lot more chunkier than places like Bottle Lake and not as steep as Rapiki. So there's some options there. I think Tanya's questioning in terms of, I think I could see her scheming going, shall I come down to the South Island and do the Tekapo with all the Qwik Kiwi members that are going to be there? No?
Uh, when is it? Just out of interest.
I don't know. September the somethingth,
Yeah.
18th, 19th.
I don't know off the top of my head. I know I was unavailable and I wouldn't be there, but I think there are some other Qwik Kiwi athletes are considering going.
Mm. No, I'll stay in the North Island, I think, for this winter.
Okay.
Thanks.
Those are all of my questions.
Anything else, Jason?
Nah.
So we'll roll on to you, Harrison.
I've got a quick question. I heard your acronym for the first time on one of your velocity rides called the ABCDs. And I was wondering if you could explain that to me a bit more, particularly C, D, and S in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is going to be, I'm going to do a presentation on recovery after the next one, which is based on strength. So, ABCDs of recovery. It's important after every session to recover so that you're set up for success for your future sessions. So the A stands for an absolute minimum of 10 minutes for the cool down at level 2 or below. So you've got that time, that 10 minutes to bring the heart rate down, clear out any lactic acid, and just bring the heart rate, breathing, everything's returning back towards resting levels. Now, whilst you're still on the bike, on a velocity session, or you're still out running, you're not going to get your heart rate, you're not going to get your breathing rate to absolute resting levels. That won't happen until you stop doing any exercise and sit down and do nothing. But it's important that you spend that time to allow all those physiological responses to start moving in that direction. So the 10 minutes is the minimum. So A stands for absolute minimum of 10 minutes at level 2 or below. The B stands for best practice of 10 minutes of stretching. So after you finish the workout, spend a minimum of 10 minutes stretching. Put the focus on the key muscles used during that workout. So cycling, you're looking at the quads and the glutes primarily, but don't exclude the other muscles that are involved in supporting the calves, the hamstrings, the lower back, etc. Running, put the focus on running muscles. Swimming, put the focus on swimming muscles. If you're kayaking or rowing or doing something else, put the focus on those muscles. If you've got tight or sore muscles from another activity you've done earlier in the day, earlier in the week, don't be shy about including stretching for those muscle groups as well. Each session could be totally different what you do for your stretches based on what muscle groups have been worked and what muscle groups are feeling tight or fatigued. As you're aware, within the Velocity platform, there's some follow-along workouts, stretching workouts for post-workouts, 10 minutes post-riding, 10 minutes post-running. These are all both included within there. Plus, there's some longer stretching sessions, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whole body, lower leg focus. There's so many different options that you might think, well, I've got some extra time today, my legs are a little bit tight. Oh, look, in Velocity, there's a 30-minute lower limb stretching session. I'll follow along that one rather than try and just make up my stretches based on what I feel like. So the B stands for best practice, 10 minutes of stretching. The C stands for complete hydration. You want to make sure you're completely hydrated. If your muscles are not hydrated, you're not going to recover optimally and you're not going to recover fully. You need to just keep consuming fluid until they are hydrated. How do you tell if if you're fully hydrated? Look at the color of your urine. If you've got a strong flow of urine and it is clear or very pale in color, you're hydrated. If your urine doesn't have much of a flow and is very bright or straw colored, then you need to consume more fluid to hydrate. Just an offshoot of that, if you're on a multivitamin or taking a lot of supplements, your body will only absorb what it needs. Everything else, the kidneys will absorb into the urine. And so if you've got a lot of supplements or other things in your urine, that will show quite bright. If you've ever had a Barocca, the next day or so going to the bathroom, you'll notice your urine is basically fluoro because it's packed full of different vitamins and minerals, and it's far more than your body needs for most of them, that your body just excretes the ones it doesn't need, and your urine is effectively fluoro. So that's C, complete hydration, making sure you're completely hydrated after each session. The D stands for dietary requirements. Now, a wise nutritionalist once told me, in fact, I first heard it when she presented on one of these coaching calls, working out for more than an hour, refuel before you shower. So if your workout is an hour or more, make sure you're going to be burning some carbohydrates as part of that process. You need to replace those carbohydrates because they're going to be what fuel you for your next workout and your workout after that and your workout after that. So it's important to replace the energy you've expended as part of that workout. Now, if your workout is less than an hour, but it's very intense, maybe some VO2 max intervals or sustained threshold intervals for just under an hour, like some of the Velocity sessions lately have been, then even though you haven't quite got that hour, I'd strongly encourage you to refuel before you shower for those shorter, more intense workouts as well. Because even though they might be slightly shorter, you're burning a lot more carbohydrates because the intensity is a lot higher. So that's D, dietary requirements. And the final letter in the acronym, ABCDs, that is the S. The S stands for sleep. The stretching, the lower intensity running and riding and swimming, etc., the hydration and the refueling, they all assist recovery. It's not the body recovering. The body recovers whilst you sleep. So if you're not getting quality sleep or you're not getting enough sleep, you are not going to be fully recovered. So it's important to make sure that you do get plenty of quality sleep in sufficient quantity so that you can recover to set you up for success for tomorrow's workouts and the workouts the days after that and following on. There's an old school saying, an hour before midnight is worth two after. So scientifically, I don't think it's true. But the principle of getting to bed early, so you're getting more sleep before midnight, means you need less sleep afterwards. So it's not, if you sleep from 9 till 5, that's 8 hours sleep. It's no different from midnight to 8 a.m. It's just You've had less stress during the day because you've gone to bed earlier. You're starting that recovery process earlier, so there's less fatigue building up. So the overall quality and quantity is probably going to be just a touch higher if you go to bed earlier and get that more sleep nice and early. Has that summed it up for you, Harrison?
Yes, it has. Thank you.
Perfect. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Perfect. Good question. And I'll go into a lot more detail in 2 coaching calls' time. Moving on to you, Gareth.
Don't think I've got any questions tonight.
Perfect. Tanya.
I have a question, and it's probably going to be quite annoying for you because I've asked
Nothing's
it before.
annoying.
Because I've asked it before. Because I can never find the other steady rides in Velocity.
Which steady rides are
The
you?
one around Hokitika.
I'm pretty certain I put steady into that name so that you can ride it. The other option is to search cool down.
Oh. I always forget. I must write a little note to myself when I'm out there, like at 6:30 or something. It's like I can't remember what keyword he said. So yeah, I'm just gonna try cool down then. Right.
Let's just double check. Now, obviously, this is from the coaching side of things, and yours is slightly different.
Yeah. Might not be available
But
to me.
that way, I'm not telling lies. So searching for steady. Coach Ray's steady cool down. That's the one
Oh, is
round.
that it?
Yes,
Oh my
that's the one
goodness. Oh
round
no, I would have never have found that. Okay.
Wadeson Island.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's from down in Wanaka. Spin to win ride
Oh,
from
okay.
the day before Challenge Wanaka. It's the ice cream ride from the day after Challenge Wanaka.
Oh yeah.
These are all runs.
Cool. Thank
Someone
you.
famous athlete rode that on my behalf. That's one I didn't actually film, but I believe it was my bike and my GoPro. Yeah.
An elite
That
athlete.
one's not. That one hasn't been released because I haven't got the footage in there, and neither with the Blue Spur.
Cool.
But all these ones at the top, they're all good to go, and you can get on them anytime.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Where did we get to? Chloe. My screen's all changed now that I've no longer sharing that PowerPoint.
Kia ora. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
No worries. You must be counting down to that important date.
It's been and gone.
Oh, has it?
Um,
I hadn't
yeah.
heard any news. I'm
No,
guessing everything
like,
went well.
oh, they're still there and I'm home, so not exactly, but not too
Okay.
bad.
Well, good luck whenever the new date arrives.
Thank you.
Any final questions have popped up before we wrap things up? All right. Well, have a fantastic week, team. Ka kite anō, and I'll look forward to seeing you all at the next coaching call.
Thanks, Ray.
You are welcome.
See
Thank
you, everyone.
you.
Ka kite.
Sarah.
Does this mean that Chloe's giant computer monitor is currently